Hey, Kids Cook Real Food. Katie Kimball here with the Kids Cook Real Food Healthy Parenting Connector, connecting parents who want to raise healthy kids with the experts who have the information you need. And I am so excited to be here with Dr. Keira Barr today. She is a dermatologist who terrifyingly diagnosed herself with skin cancer in her 20s, and it completely changed the way she practiced her practice. Welcome, Dr. Barr. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Although, admittedly, I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse that it wasn't in my 20s, actually.
Oh, okay.
It was much more recent than that. I'd like to say that it was in my 20s before I knew better, but I was actually already in practice, already a dermatologist, and in my late 30s, just about to turn 40. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry for that mistake.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Nonetheless,
yeah, I just want to.
Yeah. But I mean, what a terrifying moment that had to have been, knowing that like you had that, like a lot of us see little spots and we wonder and we get nervous, but like you had that realization and you knew. So we're going to talk today about skin safety and how to treat your skin well from the inside out and the outside in. I'm really excited. So let me just kind of introduce our community to you, Dr. Barr, and then we'll jump right into some questions. So this experience that Dr. Barr had when she diagnosed herself with skin cancer really led her to examine the importance of our skin in a more holistic way when it comes to self-esteem, understanding our body, and as a window to our overall wellness, which I just love. So she's now known as the Skin Whisperer, and she's the founder and chief wellness officer of the Resilient Health Institute. Her book, The Skin Whisperer, helps us listen to what our skin is trying to communicate and seeks to redefine skincare. I love all that. My skin has been talking to me over the last 5 to 7 years. So people who follow me at Kitchen Stewardship know a little bit about my journey, but it's always what an interesting thing that you do, listening to our skin. So again, let's jump right in. That diagnosis moment had to have been terrifying. How did it change your mindset and your practice of dermatology?
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty horrifying because not only am I a clinical dermatologist, so looking at skin on the surface, I'm also board certified to look at skin on the cellular level. So, I knew something looking at it was wrong. And then to be able to confirm it underneath the microscope was, that really sucked. And so I have to admit, in that moment when thankfully I do know what to look for, and that's what I want to educate people about so you can catch it early. It's all about prevention and early detection. And so, I just needed a wide local excision, and it was a wake up call for me, but it wasn't until the rest of my health started to totally fall apart, because I had been an ultra marathon runner, thought I was doing things right for my body, exercising, but then I wound up, my hip wound up, I wound up tearing my labrum, and oh goodness, and having surgery. And then my hormones were totally out of balance from all the stress from the running and the surgery, and had to have another major surgery. And like literally skin cancer was the beginning of a downward spiral. And that really, when I hit bottom, was the beginning of my understanding that what I was doing wasn't right for my body. And to really tune in that my skin had been talking to me all along, like all the freckles, all the moles, all the sun damage. My body was shouting like, you need to do something different. You need to help us, all the internal organs and stuff. And like, I just was totally deaf to it. So it began my journey. But the skin cancer was kind of just the beginning.
Wow. And that's so opposite of so many people's health stories, like you would think cancer is usually rock bottom. But for you, I think because you caught it early and because it was the skin, how interesting. So then what changed about how you practice dermatology after that whole process of losing your own health?
Yeah. So it's true, I think. And that's kind of one of the messages is people think just because it's on the skin, you cut it out and you forget about it. But really take it as a warning sign that something deeper is happening. It's an invitation to understand what's happening inside your body. And so really it began this journey of how was I nourishing myself? This idea of taking notice, right? So when you take notice, you can take action, really critically looking at number one, my skin. Number two, what I was feeding my body, because I thought I was eating healthfully, but I started to have all sorts of gut issues. And so really examining what I'm putting into my body, what I'm putting on my body. And I think the biggest wake up call too was what was going in my mind. Like how was I nourishing myself, my soul, so to speak. And yeah, there's a lot of chatter in there that needed to be cleaned up and cleaned out.
Wow. And so the skin was kind of the external sign. And I know, I mean, our audience here is parents, and kids are constantly getting little rashes and little itchy things. And, like it's up to us as doctor moms to figure out, is this something we even go to the doctor for? Do we put a little lotion on? Can you give parents a little bit of help in like, how do we listen to our kids' skin when those weird little things pop up?
Absolutely. And I just want to preface this by saying this all started in my childhood, because I was made fun of for what was on my skin, that I tried to hide it. And that's where I discovered that tanning was my quick fix. So good habits do start young, and really empowering our kids to feel comfortable and confident in their skin. And when something does show up, or, not just to brush it off. And so especially kids get rashes, eczema, they break out with all sorts of things. And so that whole premise that all health begins in the gut, so to speak, that idea of, is the gut microbiome, are we feeding, are we nourishing ourselves just on the basic level with a wide variety of nutrient dense foods? And so that, we can thrive on so many levels, but there's a clear gut skin connection. And there's also a clear brain skin connection. It's really fascinating. We always talk about the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, from the top down. But what they found is that even in our skin itself, we have our own version of the HPA axis, and we can generate those stress hormones in our skin too. So, our kids when they leave us and they go to school, they're dealing with all sorts of environmental pressures, they're dealing with social pressures, and that stress can really manifest itself in many ways, including exacerbation of skin conditions. So I think just having, as parents, we try and do our very best, but I think the biggest thing too is having conversations with our kids, really taking that time out to be present and figure out if there's something other than, gut health or what have you, that's going on with them, because the emotional component is huge. So not just to exacerbate and trigger something, but when we have something on our skin, that shame, that guilt, that, it's a vicious cycle. So I think with our kids, especially, having conversations.
Yeah. So for parents, I mean, just even that knowledge of that door that you just opened, that when we see something on our kid's skin, first of all, it could be external, right? Could be a new laundry detergent or a lotion, but even more likely,
Right.
It could be the gut trying to speak through the skin that something is awry, or there's a sensitivity, or you're saying it could be the brain speaking through the skin saying, I'm stressed out, I'm sad, I'm anxious, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. In addition to sleep. I mean, this is one of my new, it's not new, but of shouting it through the rooftops, because the research on the intersection of sleep and skin disorders is just getting more and more traction in the literature, especially with regard to skin cancer. And of course, that's a personal passion of mine, not only because I have been a patient, but it really was the focus of my career. And so, it could be external. What we're putting on our skin could disrupt the skin barrier and the skin microbiome, how we're nourishing ourselves food-wise, our thoughts. And then sleep is a big one, especially with all the devices that our kids are playing, and the blue light could disrupt their circadian rhythm. And then when your melatonin goes down, your stress hormones go up, and your cortisol, when that is elevated, especially for us moms, we know that cortisol, it breaks down our collagen and our elastin, so it contributes to those fine lines and wrinkles, and it delays wound healing. It totally makes us age a little bit faster, makes your acne linger longer. I mean, for so many reasons, we have to take a global approach to skincare, but especially our kids, like, staying up late, they've got sports, they've got homework and all that stuff. I mean, really trying to create a framework and structure and a hard stop point so that they do get that quality sleep at night will help their skin tremendously as well.
Okay. See, this is a new one for me. I mean, I've heard about gut skin. I've heard about gut brain. So now we got sleep skin, that your sleep, well, first of all, your sleep can lower your cortisol and help your stress, which has an impact on. Yeah. Oh, not getting sleep. I mean.
Right. Not getting sleep increases your cortisol. Yeah.
Yep. So getting sleep can calm all that, and in a way even help your skin. That's so fascinating. You used a term that I am very familiar with as far as a gut microbiome, but I feel like the skin microbiome is a little bit of a lesser known cousin. Can you give us a quick definition of what we're talking about with the skin microbiome?
Yeah, so it's similar to the gut microbiome where you've got trillions of bacteria. The same applies for your skin and your mouth and our private parts, are, like eye microbiome. I mean, we've got bacteria all over the place. And so the skin is there's a delicate balance between the good bacteria and it's not necessarily bad bacteria, but if there's an imbalance in the quantity of bacteria and the strains that are there, we know that that's an impetus for eczema to flare, for infections to happen, odor control. I was actually one of the most interesting things I was at the Skin Microbiome Congress in the spring, and they were talking about underarm bacterial transplants for odor control. I mean,
No way.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And there are bacteria, research done by Dr. Richard Gallo, dermatologist in Southern California, about the bacteria on the skin and their ability to protect us from UV damage. So yeah, I mean, we always think of bacteria as like, oh, I don't want to be, exposed to bugs and such, but they can be our friends and our allies. So just like in our gut, our skin. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like we have little communities of bacteria all over our bodies that need to be in balance within that community, and the skin happens to be one of them. And you brought up a huge hot button topic. Whenever people think about skin cancer, I think they immediately go to suntan and sunburn. So what can parents do? Like, what are your top tips for safe sun protection for families?
Yeah, absolutely. So a two-prong approach. You got to protect yourself when you're outdoors, and then kind of, again, nourishing from the inside out to prepare you so that when you go outdoors, you've got the strongest line of defense. So when you're outside, I always say that sunscreen should be your last line of defense, not your first, and certainly not your only. That being said, it absolutely needs to be part of your toolkit. So what I do recommend is clothing. So sun protective clothing. And it doesn't have to be any specific brand. Actually, one of my projects was creating a line of sun protective clothing for kids for everyday wear, t-shirts and pants and things like that, so that our kids don't have to slather themselves in sunscreen. That being said, a typical cotton t-shirt will provide some coverage, not the best, but it will provide some. So, covering your skin with as much clothing as possible. Ideally, wearing a broad brim hat with a 3-inch brim, sunglasses to protect your eyes, because skin cancer, especially melanoma, can occur in the eye itself. Skin cancer, the non-melanoma type, basal cell and squamous cell, can occur on the eyelids. So you want to protect those eyes. So seeking shade when possible. You're still going to get exposure even under the trees, but you're going to minimize it. And a good rule of thumb is that you look at your shadow, right? So a shorter shadow versus a taller shadow in terms of how much sun exposure you're getting. So those are the top 5. So seeking shade, hat, sunglasses, clothing, and then sunscreen on any parts that are exposed.
Okay.
So that's when you're outside.
Yeah, do you think, I feel like the pendulum is starting to swing in the right direction where I see more and more kids and adults at pools covering their shoulders, little boys wearing shirts, little girls wearing that kind of the shirt bathing suit instead of the strappies. Do you feel like that's happening for real, like in our culture yet?
Not enough. It's very slow. I do see it more and more, and there is definitely more of an effort being made to make it stylish and fashionable. There are a few companies out there that are doing a great job, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot more needs to be done. I think people, I hope that by sharing this with the community that people understand that skin cancer is the most prevalent cancer in our country. There are more new cases of skin cancer than breast, lung, prostate, all of them combined. And that's a big deal. And so by being able to protect ourselves and protect our kids, we can decrease that incidence.
Okay, that's great. What are some other things aside from the sun that we can do to keep our kids healthy? Like just some habits that you wish every child could grow up with?
Absolutely. So number 1 is starting with food, right? And nourishing our bodies with food that they can use for fuel to, eat for how we want to feel. Our kids, we want them to feel energized and, just be able to conquer the world versus feeling bloating and lethargic, which oftentimes happen with a lot of the processed foods, high sugar, you get the sugar spike and then you crash. So we know the literature shows that eating a whole food, nutrient dense diet with a variety of vitamins and minerals, especially with regards to skin cancer, foods high in vitamin C, vitamin D, you need selenium, vitamin C and vitamin E as well. So vitamin C and E together, that's why you'll see a lot of skincare products that have those, but those two together are a dynamic duo. So foods that contain that. And as I mentioned, sleep is a huge piece of this because it's a time for your body to rest and repair. And so the environmental stressors that you're being exposed to during the day, your body needs time to repair that. And that happens when you sleep. So that's another thing, getting good exercise. And it doesn't have to be anything intense. In fact, please learn from my mistakes of pushing way too hard, and it just stressed the body out. So moving your body in a way that feels good to get the benefit. And then there are a few supplements that can be taken. There is one on the market, or a few that contain the ingredient polypodium leucotomus, which is actually derived from a South American fern plant and has been shown to decrease threshold, or I should say increase your threshold for sunburn, and allows additional protection. But it's not a standalone product. It's not sunscreen in a bottle as it's been touted. You need it as part of your greater picture. And then the other one for any parents out there who've been diagnosed with non-melanoma skin cancer already, the studies showing the use of niacinamide, 500 milligrams twice daily, is also another resource that you can add to your toolkit to protect you when you're outdoors.
Wow, now that last one, niacinamide, you talked about people who have already had skin cancer. Is that something that's safe for anyone as a preventative, or is that more of like, ooh, or like when you're already in a situation?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's safe for anyone, but the research hasn't shown so far that there's a benefit for prevention of a primary skin cancer. What they've done is studies in those who've already had a history of, and what they found is that the incidence of additional skin cancers, because once you've had one, the likelihood of having a second is pretty high. And so they found that those individuals who had a skin cancer and then took the supplement had a decreased incidence. So it is safe for anyone to take, but we don't have the data to really support or know for sure if it'll help prevent the primary.
Gotcha. So yeah, okay, safe for anyone, but the research shows that people with it. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
I'm
Good
always
stuff.
about
This
the
is stuff
evidence.
I've never learned.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's totally what we want too. So now part of your story is that you grew up with some skin blemishes that really impacted your self-esteem, and you kind of used tanning to cover those up in a way. And so you know really firsthand how self-esteem and body image can be so tenuous for teenagers. What
Yeah.
advice do you give young people, especially girls, about how they should think about their own beauty and their body image?
Yeah, so this was, I have a teenage daughter now and a teenage son for that matter. And it is such an important topic to start a conversation about. In fact, I hosted a workshop for teen girls last spring as well. Social media creates this image of what beauty should be. And it's really hard for these girls to understand where their place is and what is it real? Is it not? And, it makes them question, am I good enough? And so this idea that, yeah, what's on the surface is important, but it's really how you are showing up in this skin of yours, right? It's a physical thing, but it's also a metaphorical, like how are you showing up in the world? And establishing that beauty is so much more than what you see on the surface. If you, um, that whole idea of nourishing yourself from the inside out is so vital. And so teaching our young kids to make choices, like to understand that they have the power to make choices for themselves. It just boosts their level of confidence. It's amazing. I use my daughter as an example because she was struggling with a lot of inflammation and pain, and actually had to quit track. She had going through puberty. There were some social things at school that were really challenging, and just by teaching her about nutrition and how to fuel her body for how she wants to feel, right? It's not about following some fad. It's not about following some trend or whatever, intermittent fasting. It's how do you want to feel? And she was able to parlay that into all the habits that we talk about: sleep, exercise, mindset, the nutrition piece. And literally she just she was able to run again, not only run again, but go to the state cross country championships.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
and she's a completely different kid, in the sense of, she didn't change who she was, but is now a much more confident, enthusiastic version of herself, because it wasn't so much about what the surface looked like, but how she really wanted to feel from the inside out. And that dictated all her choices. And she was in control of that. And so I think, for our kids, it's our job to kind of tell them what to do, but to empower them to make choices that will serve them for the rest of their lives. Like, they feel confident and beautiful when they can do that for themselves. So that's
Nice.
that's what I teach them. Like, how do you want to show up in this skin of yours? Like, insecure and, uncomfortable or powerful. And, like, you can get anything that you want, and it's the latter, right? So we have to empower them to feel that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I hear you saying for parents who are listening as a takeaway is, first of all, talk to your kids, talk to them about, like you said, how they want to feel and how food and daily habits all play into that. I know here at Kids Cook Real Food, we talk a lot about building strong family bonds and confidence in the kitchen, because when kids can make food for themselves and make food for other people, like, there's just such a wealth of confidence there. But, then there are a lot of places that you can build confidence in your kids depending on what their passions are. But yeah, I love that idea of talking about how do you want to feel in your skin, and what choices are you making to, to further that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
cool. So now you have a free program to help moms out there thrive in daily life, because we struggle too. It's not just the teenagers. Life is still hard. I was just telling some teenagers last night, like, Yeah, I was like, yeah, some things don't actually get any easier when you're an adult. Like we adults kind of struggle with some of the same questions and issues that teens do, just in a little bit different chapter of the book, you know? But can you tell us a little bit about your program?
Yeah. So there's a 30-day program that you can enjoy. It's basically a motivation and habit or tip to help jumpstart your journey to resilient health. That's totally free. And there's also a quick start guide. If you don't want to do a full 30 days, there's something that's just 12 simple things that you can do. The whole point is that I think most of us get stuck, that we think in order to be healthy, we have to make these huge shifts, and then you feel deprived and you give it up and you look for the quick fix or the fad. And I just want to assure you that it's the small, simple, consistent things that over time, that idea of the compound effect, right? That's where the massive shift happens. So even if you can do one little thing, incorporate one thing out of the 30, like you're already so much better off than you were before. So yeah, I just want to encourage everyone, like it doesn't have to be some, life altering thing. It's just little steps that are consistent.
Yes. Well, I am all about the baby steps, and we will make sure to provide links to that 30-day program free, right? Is it free?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. We'll make sure we have links to that program anywhere we share this interview, as well as Dr. Barr's book, The Skin Whisperer, which is I've read it actually. It's a really nice, easy kind of narrative read with a lot of power-packed education in there. And Dr. Barr, I always like to end with something super practical, something parents can just take with them and do today. So what would be like one simple step that you would tell parents to do today before they go to sleep, getting their beauty rest appropriately early enough, of course?
Right. So do you want a PG rated one, or I mean,
well, now we need two. We need the PG and we need the adult version, as long as it's not too crazy.
Everyone, my number one tip for everybody, kids, parents especially, is to get naked, right? In order to, especially with regards to skin cancer, especially to understand what's happening on your body, to understand what's happening in your body, you have to look at your skin. You have to look at every nook and cranny of it. That's the only way that you're going to know something's growing, changing, and you need to get a checkout. So that would be my number one tip, is check your birthday suit for any uninvited guests. You got to get naked every single month.
Okay, that's a good reminder, because probably most of us have not done that and had someone look at our parts that we can't even see for quite a long time. So we can do that today. Was that the PG or the not PG?
Well, I guess it was like, that was probably the not PG, but I mean, it's something that we could teach our kids as well. When you're in the shower, just like for women, we do the self-breast exam, do the exact same thing with your skin.
Right. Yeah. Without awareness, we have no idea what's changing.
Exactly.
You don't know what it was last month. You don't know if it's changed or grown, or because
Right.
those are the real problems.
Right. That's right. So, because when you take notice, you can take action. And that's my big takeaway. You got to take notice of every facet of what's happening in your life so you can do something about it. And especially, I love that. With regard to cancer, you got to do something about it as early as you can.
Great. So take notice of your skin, what changes, and listen to what your skin is trying to tell you, whether it's something really scary, like, do I need to get checked out for skin cancer, or just a little rash, and am I stressed out, or am I eating foods that aren't nourishing my birthday suit? So great advice, Dr. Barr. Thank you. Thank you so much. And community, come on back next week, where I will connect you with another expert who has information you need to raise healthy kids here at the Healthy Parenting Connector.